Good morning and welcome as you join me as I'm just finishing a cup of tea. My name is Helen Jennings. I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator and I'm based here in the UK. And we come on live normally twice a week and we make projects together, share ideas, look at tips and tricks along the way, and just get to play and look at all the beautiful products we have in our Stamping Up range. So it is really lovely to welcome you to join me this morning, whether you're joining live or whether you are watching on catch up somewhere further down the line. Do pop on and say hello. Do share what you're up to, where you're from, and any observations and thoughts as we go through. It is lovely to always chat with you. So, without further ado, let me just bring in my other camera and we will let's move on down and I'll have another quick slurp of tea while we do that. So this is me, www.love-a-duckie.co.uk. That's my website. That's where you'll find me in internet world, on the World Wide Web. Do go over and check me out. You'll find details of classes and tutorial bundles. You'll find lots of inspiration on my blog. Good morning, Lisa. Yeah, that will link to lots of other places. But wherever you're looking for me on social media, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or Instagram or Pinterest, or I did very tentatively put up one very simple TikTok video yesterday. Dragging myself into 2022 cautiously. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, you'll find me under Love-a-Duckie wherever you go looking for me. So I look forward to sharing more with you on some of those other platforms and places. It was really interesting yesterday. Fun fact for you. I put the same post up on Facebook and Instagram, and it was just asking people whether they chocolate or cheese was the question, or cheese or chocolate. And interestingly, Instagram was all cheese, bar one who said both, and Facebook was all chocolate. So I'm not sure whether that is a fact that people need to know, that Facebook users prefer chocolate and Instagram users prefer cheese. What a weird world we live in. Right, so on Monday, I introduced you to the Sweet Talk Suite. And we had a bit of a play. I'll remind you what we made on Monday. But this Sweet Talk Suite has obviously been created. It's in the new January, not quite so new now, a few weeks old, January to June mini catalogue. And obviously it has been designed with Valentine's in mind, but that doesn't mean that we only have to use it for Valentine's. I'm sure there are other occasions. I know there are other occasions when we want to express our love to other people. And the other nice thing about this suite is it's not just hearts and things, but there are lots of sweets of the confectionery kind featured as well. So plenty there to play with, and a really pretty colour palette. You can see those colours across the bottom there. That's the colour palette of the paper. Obviously, if you're doing stamping and those sorts of things, you can have whatever colour you like. If you want black and white hearts, well, now there's a thought. I do love a bit of black and white. You can just do that. So this actual suite, before I whiz that away, it consists of a bundle. So you've got a stamp and die bundle in here. You've got a photopolymer stamp, which makes it nice and easy to be able to see through and to position. And you've got these lovely dies that go with it. And they've got a whole selection of little rows of dies, which are really useful. And then there's lots of little individual dies, the slightly bigger ones, and some banners and some tags and a cute little envelope. So really nice set of dies. There's this gingham embossing folder. We didn't play with that on Monday, but we will make sure we play with it today. We've got these little sweet little boxes. We will decorate one of those today as well. Some iridescent rhinestones. Those are just beautiful, gorgeous faux linen ribbon in real red, and then these beautiful papers. So lots to play with. do have a bit of a croaky throat this morning, so apologies, which is why I've got tea in one hand and a glass of water in the other. Hopefully that will see us through. So a quick flash of all these beautiful papers. They are just gorgeous, and you can see you've got lollipops on here, and you've got lots of sweets and things on here, wrapped sweets and heart-shaped lollipops. So really, as I say, and these are very reminiscent of Love Heart sweets, and some of your dies are going to cut some of these out, and then if you swing that paper around, you've got some really nice generic stripes and water wash effects and dots, and little rows of hearts, and this one is just all love sentiments on that paper. So gorgeous paper. Those are my whole sheets. These are my little bits, and we'll be digging into those as we go on. So I think we'll start with a little box. Let me start by reminding you what we did on Monday. So on Monday, and if you weren't with us and you want to go back and find it, you'll be able to find this on my YouTube channel. On Monday, we created this happy to have you in my life card, and we just layered up some of those papers and did a bit of die cutting, just in that sort of layered panel effect. And then this one is called a, you see, completely brain dead. It is called a spanner card. I knew it came out of the toolbox. I'm thinking hammer, that's not right. Spanner card. This is called a spanner card, and so you have this panel here with this acetate window strip across here that we've decorated, and it opens up to another panel underneath where we've got some of this beautiful love heart type paper, and then you open up again and you've got a panel inside. So that is a spanner card, and you can see how that was made over on my YouTube channel, and there is a blog post up with those as well. Right, so let's start with today, and let's have a look at one of these little boxes. I have got a post-it note with measurements on, so we'll put that just here. So these little boxes, they come in a pack of 10, yes, 10 little boxes in a pack. They come all nicely flat packed like this. They would make really nice wedding favours or gifts for parties and those sorts of things. And you can see you've already got your strips of adhesive on there, so you don't even need to add adhesive. That is already there. And they just simply fold round. I'm not going to stick it in place yet. That bit tucks in there. Those fold round there and stick in place. Your flaps come down, and then that bit tucks in to make a little box like that. That's perfect for all your sweet treats. It's always good with boxes to get people's ideas. What's the most random thing that you could think you could put in one of those boxes? It's about 1.5 centimeters deep, which is, I think, about just over half an inch, not quite 3/4 of an inch, sort of, 5/8 of an inch deep. So 1.5 centimeters, 5/8 of an inch deep. So they're not ever so deep. They're just right for sort of little loose sweets and things like Skittles. If you're here in the UK, I don't know if other people have Skittles, but those sorts of little sweets, M&Ms, they would work quite well in there. Those sorts of loose sweets, but I'm sure there's other unsweety things that you can think of to put in there as well. So let's have a look at one of these boxes. And I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put some of our paper on there. And I'm thinking we will go down the sweet route with this paper here that's got all these lollipops and wrapped sweets and things on it. And I've measured these panels. So I've measured this large front and back panel and these side panels. Now this front panel here measures 6.3 centimeters by 9. I haven't done it in imperial. Let's have a look. So it's about 2.5 inches by 3.5. So I'm going to cut a piece of paper to go on there. Now I might do different front and back. Well, actually, I might come in with the spotty one for the back. So let's have one panel that measures 8.5 by 5.8. And it's come 5.8 by 8.5. Let's make sure my measurements are about right. Yep, that's going to sit nicely on there. And then we're going to do the same with this spotty piece. Have I got a smaller spotty piece? I wonder if that's big enough. I do believe it is. So we need it to be 8.5 by 5.8. Perfect. That was just little slivers coming off there. Perfectly sized. So we have a front panel and a back panel for our box. Now these bits coming across here, this is the bit that's going to sit sort of across the top of the box, so that will be visible. I'm not going to worry so much about that. That's going to be the bottom of the box, so you wouldn't normally necessarily decorate the bottom of the box, but we will have a panel that goes in the top there. That's going to go back to my spotty paper. And as I say, this is 1.5 centimetres, so I just want some little 1 centimetre strips. And for that top panel, that's my blade just falling out, that top panel needs to be 5.8 by 1. And these side panels here, we've got 4 of those. Now they're not actually as long as the front panel. So this front panel was 9 centimetres. These side pieces are actually only 8.6, though they are slightly smaller. So we need those to be 8.1 by 1. That one's not nearly long enough. I'm going to take a long strip and 8.1. That bit's left over. I might cut it to 5.8. I'll perhaps pop as I've got that little bit just there, I might as well pop it on the bottom rather than waste it. And then we need one more at 8.1. Did I cut that a bit wrong? I certainly did. Right, so there we have a patchwork of paper. Morning, Molly, to go on our box. Let's stick those in place. Now, obviously this sort of spotty paper is really sort of quite non-directional, apart from you've got the dashes going one way on one piece and then obviously downwards on another. So I've got 2 bits that go that way and 2 bits that go that way, so let's pair those up. Actually, one of these pieces we're not going to need, are we, because it is going to stick over the top. This bit actually. So ignore wanting 4 bits. That's shows going without thinking. This is going to stick over the top of that, so that bottom piece doesn't need any paper. You only actually need 2 of these. So we'll put those to one side. So we do need to make sure that that piece panel just there, if it is directional, is in the right direction, but I don't think it would matter too much, but I think with that lollipop being centre, we want to make sure that it's sort of sitting up that way, I think. And then a strip of paper for the top. Right, so now we have a box that we've added paper to give it, make it look pretty full. But I want to do a bit more decoration on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring out my dies. I'm going to find this downward die like this. And I'm actually going to cut that from the front of this box to give some heart-shaped apertures in there. Let's line that up and run that through our die cutting machine. Now, if you remember, if you were watching on Monday, or if you've seen these dies before, you'll know that that's going to cut out this whole piece. That's what I was going to bring in. I was going to bring in my Welsh spoon. It's going to cut out this whole sort of carved Welsh spoon effect row of hearts like this, which is quite pretty, isn't it? And I might well use those for something else somewhere along the line, but I'm not going to use them at the moment. What I am going to bring in is a little piece of acetate to go underneath there. So if I make it about 5.5 by 8, that will be brilliant to go in there. So let me just cut a little bit of acetate. It's 5.5 by 8. It's a little bit wonky, but it won't actually matter because that is going to stick now on the underside just here. So it is covering over those holes, so nothing is going to escape out of those holes. We don't want that happening. That would be a disaster. And to bring it over this way because I want to be able to run, I'm just going to put a bit of double-sided tape around the outside of these hearts, just to stick that window sheet down. Let's bring in our take a pick tool and use that. Just get that point underneath that carrier tape to help to ease it off. Much easier than trying to fiddle about with fingernails. You take your pick tool is such a valuable tool. As you can see, I have got 2 here. You don't need 2. I'm just greedy. And the reason I've got 2 is that because I can swap about. You've got all these little attachments to swap about, and I can just leave mine so that I've got access to most of them instantly. So you do have your pointy tool, which is probably the tool I use most. You've also got like this little palette sort of knife effect, just here, which is really good for lifting things, brilliant for scraping bits off your soft pastels, all sorts of jobs you can do with that. This comes as a separate attachment, so you've got your die brush on there, you've got an embossing tip which has 2 size embossing balls on it that you can just pop out and swap around, and then you've got your putty feature, which is great for picking up little pieces, sequins, all those sorts of things. So obviously, as I say, you only need the one tool. I've got 2 just because I can swap between the both of them. Good morning, Carol. As I go along without having to wait too long. So yeah, you can be greedy like me and have 2, but 1 does actually suffice. But they are a great tool and one of those things that you don't want to be without. So I'm just going to stick that piece of acetate on the underneath now. So now we haven't got a hole, we've got a clear through, see-through window. And what I want to do is I want to put some outline hearts back in there. And I'm going to do that, I think, with, I think we'll go real red. So I'm going to find myself, I've got all my little scraps of card that I keep in sort of separate bags, so at any one time I can just use them up rather than wasting them. I don't like to waste them, so I just keep them in separate colours. I obviously generate quite a lot of scraps, probably far more than you may do at home. So yeah, but it's good to remember to use them up. Now I just want a bit of card that's long enough to cut that die, that heart die just there. So let's snip that off. And what I'm going to do is, because what I don't want to be doing is playing around necessarily with wet glue and my acetate, because obviously that might well. I do have a bag for each colour, Carol. How sad is that? So yes, I do have, apart from my white, which is in a box, I have a bag for each colour. So that means, for those of you that know your Stampin' Up colour range, I have 50 of those bags, plus others lying around from, you know, what are now retired colours. So yes, which is why one of my, you know, New Year's resolutions is to try and use my scraps a bit more, to stop trying to not to generate any that I don't need to generate. So what I've cut here, and this, as you can see, is the old style Sizzix. I'm still using up my old double-sided adhesive, but we do stock, we have got double-sided adhesive in the catalogue. Really useful little tool. So I am going to use some double-sided adhesive. Let's take off that back carrier sheet and stick some on the back of this card, because that will mean once I've die cut this, I will just be able to peel and stick. No glue will be seeping out onto that acetate. I am notoriously bad at forgetting my double-sided adhesive. It is such a valuable addition to your craft room. So why do I keep forgetting it? So there we have that little scrap I won't keep. That will go in my recycling bin, which is just behind me. I try to be very good at recycling things that I can recycle. There's always work to be done on that, but I do have a recycling bin at all times next to me. So let's pop out this. So we've got 4 little hearts now, and those little hearts are all going to have that adhesive sheet on the back. I'll pop those into my little, I've got quite a growing little dish here of hearts and things from these projects. And now I'm going to bring back in this little box, and when I bring this out, we are just going to be able to take the back off of there, And we need to turn this round. Does anybody else do things sideways? Anybody else find it easier to do things sideways? I'm just going to insert that into that box that way. And now we have a pretty little window that all of our whatever we've got inside is now going to show through the window, giving a tempting little glimpse of what's within. So let's take this tape off here, grab my tape pick tool once more. And we'll do one side at a time. Then this side. Ooh, what have we picked up on the top there? A little bit of glue from somewhere. And then we can tuck that top in. So it is quite snug, but you want it to be snug because you don't want things to be falling out. And somewhere we have this really beautiful linen ribbon. I think I've gone from one extreme to the other there. Not enough to far too much. Let's just lay that there for a second. And let's bring in a tag, I think. Now I think we'll cut that out of white. So yes, my white is in a big box. Do need to sort this out. I think some of it is perhaps too small really to use now. That is actually a piece of thick basic white, but that will not be amiss in terms of a tag. So let's cut ourselves out a tag. I'm also going to cut one out of real red. It's just nice to have that bit of contrast at the back there. In fact, I think what I might do, I've not exploded one of these tags, but I think I am going to explode this one. And just give ourselves a bit of a red border either side. Put these little red hearts in here that we might be able to use on our tag. I think we're going to use the happy to have you in my life. Now, my real red ink pad is still missing in action. It is one of life's mysteries. I do need to completely gut my craft room, I think. Anybody else have those issues? I'm sure that I will find it in the middle of a pile of papers or something that didn't look possible to be concealing a real red ink pad. I'm trying to think the last time I used it. But we do have a little real red ink spot, so it's a perfect opportunity to big these up. And I was sort of highlighting on Monday the little set of 8 ink spots that you can get in the catalogue or get on the online store that does include real red. Now then, where did that tag go? It fell on the floor. So we saw it go. We know that's the direction it went. Well, that is bizarre. Ah, there it is. As I say, can't have gone far away. I'm going to have that there. Yes, the borrowers have definitely been and borrowed my real red ink pad. I'll have to look back on some lives and classes and things and think when I last used it. Might give me a clue as to where it is now residing. Let's peel these back pieces off of here. Oh, well, that's not helpful, is it? There was 2 of those. No wonder it felt so thick. What I'm going to do is just going to stick that one on the top of that one. Not going to try and peel that other one off. Let's bring in some of our little hearts that we cut from the centre of our aperture. No, not there. Let's have you up there. Just thread that ribbon. It's a nice, lovely ribbon because it is soft enough to tie nice bows and things, but firm enough that it does things like go through holes in tags quite nicely. It's got enough body to it to do that without very much without sort of fraying or complaining too much. Right, let's tie ourselves a little bow here. And then we'll have a bit of a play with it. Bows very rarely are perfect the minute that you tie them. You do invariably have to have a bit of a play and a tweak and a pull this bit this way and that bit that way, but that's all okay, that's fine. The annoying thing is when you've got it just perfect and then you need to undo it. Right, let's find a little dimensional, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to add that tag down there with a little dimensional. That will help to keep the ribbon in place as well as the tag. And then let's come in. It would be very sad not to have added a couple of these gorgeous iridescent rhinestones. They're just beautiful. So let's have a bit of bling on here as well. Shall we put some on our hearts? Why not? So there's a cute little box that you can fill with whatever your beloved's favourite treats are, or it could be children, grandchildren, somebody in the office, the postman, the Amazon man, if he's kept you sane during lockdown. And yeah, whoever you'd like to gift a few little sweet treats to these Valentines. These little boxes are just brilliant, but as I say, they would be really lovely as wedding favours as well. You could sort of decorate them, spritz them, sponge them, all sorts of things in whatever colours you want, you know, fitted the wedding theme. So yeah, they would be lovely little boxes. In fact, at my daughter's wedding, which was quite a few years ago, one of the little favours that everybody had was a little key ring with a picture of the bride and groom on, and they would fit. We made boxes very similar size to that to fit those in. Had these been available, we may not have gone to all the effort of creating. Right, so there's a little box. So I think we ought to now make a little card, and the card that I thought we would make is a little pocket card. Let me just, and we are going to have a bit of a play with that embossing folder because we haven't yet, and I don't think we can go through 2 lives using this suite without using the embossing folder. Now, as you can see, I've got all of my measurements. This is like the prototype. This is what our pocket card is going to look like, hopefully, when we have finished. Put aside. In fact, this post-it note I'm going to put in with my bag of boxes so that if I come to make some more, I've already got my measurements. How efficient is that? Oh, I should be scaring myself. Right, I've got a piece of Blushing Bride cardstock here. Now I am going to score it. So obviously I'm using metric sizes here. You can create something very similar, and when I come to write the blog post up, I'll try and do the imperial equivalents, but obviously I've got a piece of 10.5 by 29.7 cardstock just here. I'm going to score it in half at just under 14.9, and I'm going to put another score line in at 4 centimeters. So if you're using imperial cardstock, then just score it in half, and then you want it to be about, now I did measure this and promptly forgot, didn't write it down. So you want it to be about 1.5 inches would be absolutely perfect. So 4 centimeters, 1.5 inches. Excuse me while I write that down because it will be good to remember that. So let me score this. So when I come to scoring, what I tend to do is I take it so it's sort of, you know, eyeball it somewhere between 14.8 and 14.9, just because efficient, you know, to be exact, halfway on a piece of A4 is 14.85. Right, so scored it in half and scored it at 4 centimetres. So this bit is going to come this way and this bit is going to come that way. And what we are going to do is use a little bit of tear and tape to create the pocket. So we will stick this bit down in a minute, but I want to put some paper on. But first I'm just going to put a little bit of tear and tape down that piece and a little bit of tear and tape down this side. And it's called tear and tape because you can just tear it like that. You don't need scissors. And then I am going to lift this. Now, I'm not going to lift it all of the way. I'm just going to lift it part of the way. And I'm going to bend this tape back like that. Because what that allows you to do is it gives you, it's quite a good idea if you're putting mats, if you use tape as well, to stick mats onto cards. It just allows you a little bit of a breather. You've not stuck the whole thing down. We're just sticking down those two top bits where that tape has been revealed, and then we can get hold of this and just pull, and that will uncover the rest of that adhesive and allow us just to finish that off. Right, so I'm going to take you see now I've done all of that, and I did all of that so carefully, and I didn't do what I wanted to do, but that's okay. I will just have a mat on the back here. We'll have a change of plan. I was going to put a complete mat on the back there. Change of plan, we'll have just a mat on here and we'll emboss that. So I'm going to take a little bit of Highland heather. And I'm going to cut it so that it is 10 centimetres wide. And I'm actually going to cut it so it is about 3.75, something like that, deep, because I'm going to sit it in there so that it's sticking out of the top, but you've got an equal border. So this width here is 0.5 centimetre shorter than the width of the card back, which means that you're going to have 1/4 centimetre showing on each side. So I just wanted 1/4 centimetre showing at the top there. We know that this is 4 centimetres, so I've made that about 3 3/4, about 3.75. So now I'm going to take that strip just there, and I'm going to take the gingham embossing folder, which is just here. Now this is just a standard embossing folder, it's not a 3D embossing folder. I'm going to pop that in the middle there and decide where we want to line it up, about like that. And then I will run that through my cut and emboss machine. So for a standard embossing folder, we need our number 1 base plate. We don't need our number 2 plate, apologies, sending you flying. Don't need our number 2 die cutting plate, but we do need our 2 number 3 not so clear plates. Well loved plates. Let's run that through. And as always with an embossing folder, do run it through hinge first. So hinge side first is the way that it should go through your machine. Just because as it goes through the machine, it might wobble a little bit. And if it's this way and it pushes it and wobbles it a little bit, it can split your embossing folder on the hinge. So always send it through hinge first That's the end, you know, as it goes initially through the machine, that's where it hits the most pressure. So, yeah, always send that bit through first. So, I don't know how well you are going to pick up that pattern on that card. Oh, that's good. That's the spot just there. So can you see how you got, and there it was gone. Can you see how you've got that checked design on there? And that is what you get with this gingham embossing folder. So this sort of checkered effect. So let's stick that in place just here. And then let's have a look at our papers and decide papers we'd like to use for this front piece. I really love, is that going to be big enough? I think that would be pretty well perfect to go in there. And we could have some love words. That might be quite nice, mightn't it? So this piece here needs to be about 10 by 10.4. Now it's not going to matter if it's not quite 10.4 because obviously that's going to be tucked under here. So let's have a look. It is, and it's a 10 centimeters, and it is actually 10 centimeters deep, but that will be fine because, as I say, that top bit isn't going to show anyway. And this bit here needs to be 10 centimeters by 3.5. Again, I will put all of these measurements on the blog post that will go up in the next couple of days with this card on. So we'll have that sitting just there like that. So let's stick these in place. I need to concentrate on getting the margins around the edge right on that bottom piece rather than concentrating on the top piece, because we do know that that is slightly shorter. And let's have that on there. Now what I do think I will do is take some of this edge pieces of these dimensionals. Don't ever waste your dimensionals. I'm going to run those down there. Let's take another couple of pieces. You don't ever want to throw away your carrier sheet of your dimensionals until every last scrap has gone. I'll just take the back off of those. And then that's just going to lift that slightly to sort of help give that pocket type effect, give it a bit of dimension. So we've got our sort of card base. We shall perhaps come back and do other things with it, but for now we have a card base. Let's bring in a little bit of, so I'm just looking, I know I've got some basic white pieces cut just here. Now we're going to trim this centre piece to come in here, so it's 13.9 by 8.5. 8.5 wide, because obviously we've got to be aware that we've got those two lines of tape inside there. Perfect. So that is going to slot in there perfectly. I think we'll have some paper on there as well. And I'm going to go stripes. So this will need to be 13.4 by 8. Brilliant. Now let's come back to our dies. Now in our earlier project we used the dies that went downwards. This time I'm going to use these dies that go crossways, just to put a little bit of a actually yeah, I'll use these. I'm going to go this way to cut some parts on the top there. Pop my number 2 plate back in, otherwise my sandwich won't be deep enough to cut through the card. I think I want those back in. I'm just going to take a piece of I'm going to take a piece of Blushing Bride cardstock, I think. And that just happens to be about 7.5. I'm going to take a bit more off of that and make it 12.9. And then we'll have an even border all the way round. So let's stick this in place. And then we can stick these in place. And obviously didn't use double-sided tape this time, double-sided sheet. So we will just put some little spots of Tombow on there. Like that. So we've put that sort of frame back in. We've got our pink card peeping out underneath. Like that. I think we'll have a little envelope. And let's do that in, let's pick out one of these other colours here. I think I might go real red actually. Might have a bit of a splash of red, and then we can bring in some real red ribbon as well. We will already have introduced that colour into the mix. This die cut dies your little envelope with your score lines already on it. I'm just going to put a little spot of glue on the bottom of those two sections so that that holds that down, but we still have a pocket to put something in. Bring in a bit more of this ribbon. Just a tad longer. Now, actually, what I'm going to do, another little trick, if you happen to have them, can I see them? I can't see them, I can't show you the trick. Let's have a look. If you happen to have in your possession some of these little tweezers that you have to press to open, a really good way of tying bows, of helping you to tie your bows, is if you get your knot like this, open up your tweezers, let them shut. That will hold that in place for you while you then can fiddle around. It's the sort of thing that, you know, if you've got a friend there, you might just say, oh, put your finger on that knot. But if you happen to be home alone without a friend to put their finger on that knot, this style of tweezer, these are tweezers I've had for years. That's not a Stampin' Up product. But if you do happen to have that style of tweezer, then they are a brilliant alternative to having a friend that you're crafting with to put a finger on the knot. Obviously, a friend to craft with and put their finger on the knot is the best solution. But if there's not one around, that is just perfect. Right, I'll have a little envelope. I'm going to pop a couple of dimensionals on this bottom section because we've got dimensionals on here raising it up. Let's have a few little. Let's take the longest die, and just because that will cut 5 little hearts for me in one foul swoop. And a little bit of Flush and Bride. Let's just cut out, I just need the hearts in the middle. So I've got another nice long piece that we can use for decorating somewhere else, because I just want these little hearts coming out of my envelope, and I will perhaps do a little little piece of white card. And take my ruler and let's just make 2.5 centimeters, so about an inch. Yeah, about an inch square, 2.5 centimeters or an inch square piece of cardstock. So just a little, literally a little inchy. Inches are when you use little squares to decorate and create projects out of all the different little inches of creativity, or create a bigger project and cut it into inches, and then we might use some of those hearts as well, we'll see. We'll have that little message coming out of there. So is that little let's go with that hug me, I think. Hug me. And put back in our little real red. Bring that up to the top of that little square. We can stick that in there. So I'm just going to put a little bit of Tombow on the back of there. Squeeze it in, give it a push down. And then we have our little hearts that we can have coming out with it. Do we want to add some of these in as well? No, I don't think I do. I think I'm going to leave those. So a little hug me. Lots of little hearts coming out of that envelope. And I'm just going to find another tool that I've had for years. I'm just going to take my crocodile, but any hole puncher will do. Just put a little hole in the top there. And pop a bit of that ribbon through. And take a little bit of white thread. bring in our tweezers again just to hold that in place for me while I bring this round. And I need to go sideways. I think I just am of a wonky inclination. We'll snip that off. Have a bit of a play with these ends. I think I might come in with that little row of hearts across the bottom there. Now the nice thing about these sorts of projects is we could, so you know, if you were sending this to your Valentine, you could pop a photograph on there, pop a photograph on the back. On the back you're going to be able to put a whole little message. You could add a second pocket across the back there and pop a little gift tag or something in, or a little note or a little voucher to, I don't know, make their favourite cake or whatever it is that you would like to gift them. But you've got lots of options for what you could do on your little pull-out pocket on there. But there we have a cute little pocket card to pull out, and as I say, you could add a photo. You almost want one of those sort of photo booth, or a couple of those photo booth photos on there, don't you, of the two of you or whatever from when you were first dating or whatever. If you have those lying around, you could make a copy. But there, a pocket card. So I think we've now played with everything in the suite. We've got rhinestones. We haven't got any rhinestones on here. We've got ribbon. We've got the embossing folder. We've got lots of those gorgeous papers. Let's just add. We'll have one on there. And perhaps a couple just on our pocket piece at the back there. So yes, rhinestones, ribbon, paper, embossing folder. I think we've got a bit of everything that we've used from that gorgeous suite. So those were today's cards, or today's projects, a pocket card and a box, and they will add in with our two projects from the other day. So hopefully you've had a really good taste of everything that you get in that suite, and the fact that it doesn't have to just be for Valentine's Day. Obviously, you know, all of those sweets and things on there would make great cards, kids cards or whatever, or for anybody with a sweet tooth in your household. So yeah, if you would like to get your hands on that suite of projects and you don't have a demonstrator, you're here in the UK, then do get in touch. I would love to be able to help you, or you'll find links to my shop and things. Once I have edited videos and things, you will find links to shops and products and things underneath this video. And as I say, do go and check out my blog. Later in the week, in a couple of days or so, you'll find all the information about these cards, and information about the other two cards we made on Monday is already up there. So thank you for joining me. It's been lovely to spend an hour with you this morning, and I will be back on live on Monday, but as always you can catch up on all of the videos either on my Facebook page on my Facebook, my VIP Facebook group, or on YouTube, wherever you happen to find me. And while you're there, do follow, like, subscribe. That all gives me a big boost, helps me out, and it makes sure that you know when new content is going in. So have a fabulous weekend, everybody, and we'll be back on Monday for some more craft.